the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. Blue-gray mist hangs over the cobblestone streets of the French Quarter. The sound of jazz echoes faintly through the night, the kind of music that hides secrets. Beneath the flickering street lamps, there's a name whispered in every corner: Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. In the early 1800s, New Orleans was unlike any other city in America. It was a crossroads of cultures: Creole, French, African, and Caribbean, a place where religion and superstition lived side by side. And in that world of spirits and saints, Marie Laveau ruled both the living and the dead. No one really knew when she was born. Some said 1794, others swore it was 1801. But what everyone agreed on was that Marie had a presence. She didn't just walk into a room, she commanded it. Dressed in white linen and crowned with bright headscarves, she moved like someone who knew the secrets of life and death. To some, she was a healer. To others, a witch. Marie's power didn't come from dark bargains or hidden altars, it came from people. She listened. When she worked as a hairdresser, wealthy women poured their hearts out to her, revealing their scandals and fears, their husbands' failures, their children's sins. And Marie listened, carefully storing every piece of gossip like an offering. Soon, she knew more about the city's elite than they knew about themselves. It was said she could fix anything: marriages, fortunes, even lives. Her clients would pay in gold, jewels, or anything they thought might please the spirits. And Marie would hand them a small pouch, a gris-gris, filled with herbs, oils, and bones. A charm for protection. A promise of luck. And for a price, maybe a curse. But her true strength wasn't just in potions or prayers, it was in fear. Because Marie Laveau understood one powerful truth: people fear what they don't understand. And in 19th century Louisiana, fear was the greatest form of control. At the height of her fame, she held ceremonies in Congo Square. Hundreds would gather to watch her dance barefoot on the earth, surrounded by firelight and chanting drums. Some said she spoke to spirits. Others swore she became one. When yellow fever swept through New Orleans, Marie predicted who would live and who would die, and she was always right. Was it luck? Or something more? Even her enemies didn't dare speak against her. Those who mocked her would find themselves sick within days, their fortunes reversed overnight. And when she walked past the St. Louis cemetery, even the wind seemed to whisper her name. Marie Laveau died in 1881, or so they say. Because even now, her tomb is covered in offerings, her name scratched into stone by those who still ask for her blessing. And sometimes, late at night, when the jazz dies down and the streets fall silent, locals swear they can still see her shadow, standing beneath the gaslight, smiling. The Curse of Madame LaLaurie. The French Quarter hides many stories, but none as vile, as cruel, or as unforgettable as the one behind 1140 Royal Street, the mansion of Madame Delphine LaLaurie. To strangers, she was charm itself, a vision of wealth and refinement. Her balls were the talk of New Orleans society. She wore pearls that shimmered like moonlight and moved through the room as if the world itself bowed before her. But behind the lace and laughter was something monstrous. For years, neighbors whispered about the strange sounds coming from her house. Screams. Chains. The smell of iron that lingered in the air long after midnight. No one dared confront her, not in a city where her wealth could silence the truth. But on April 10, 1834, the fire began. Smoke poured out from the kitchen of the mansion. Firemen rushed in, breaking through heavy oak doors, searching for survivors. That's when they found the locked room above the kitchen, and the truth Delphine had buried for years. Inside were 7 enslaved people, chained, starved, mutilated beyond recognition. The rescuers stumbled out of the room, their faces pale and broken. Word spread through New Orleans like a curse. Crowds gathered outside the mansion, furious and grieving, ready to burn the house to the ground. But by the time they stormed the property, Madame LaLaurie was gone. She had escaped through a carriage door and vanished into the mist, leaving behind nothing but the horrors she created. When police dug through her garden, they found graves, shallow, unmarked, filled with the remains of those who had suffered in silence. Among them, the bones of a young girl. That girl's story became legend, the housemaid who tried to escape LaLaurie's wrath by climbing the rooftop, chased by her mistress. Some said she jumped, others said she was pushed. The truth was lost with her scream. Years later, locals claimed to see a small figure on the roof whenever a storm passed through the French Quarter, a shadow staring down at the street, the sound of crying carried by the rain. The mansion still stands today, its iron balconies blackened with age. Tour guides call it the most haunted house in America. Visitors say they feel watched. They hear footsteps echoing on the empty stairs. Some even swear they've heard Delphine's voice whispering through the walls, proud, unrepentant, and still cruel. Her legacy isn't just a ghost story. It's a reminder of how evil can wear perfume and pearls, how horror can hide behind velvet curtains. And though Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen, is said to have cursed her name for eternity, maybe the curse wasn't strong enough. Because as long as 1140 Royal Street stands, so does the memory of Madame Delphine LaLaurie, the woman who turned beauty into blood. The Axeman of New Orleans. New Orleans never really sleeps. Even after midnight, the air hums with the low rhythm of jazz and the distant laughter of strangers. But between 1910 and 1919, that sound carried something darker: the echo of footsteps, the sharp hiss of metal sliding from its sheath, and the shadow of a man the newspapers called the Axeman of New Orleans. No one knew his name. No one ever saw his face. But everyone knew what followed when he arrived: blood, panic, and silence. It began quietly in the summer of 1910. On Lessup Street, a woman named Harriet Cruelty ran into the street at 3 a.m., her nightgown stained in red. Her husband lay inside their home, barely alive, skull split open by a blade. Harriet said she woke to see a tall man standing over her, holding a cleaver, whispering, "Give me your money, or you'll end up like him." She gave him everything. It wasn't enough. The man vanished before police arrived. Days later, another family, the Rosettos, Italian grocers, were found butchered in their beds, their faces disfigured, their front door broken with a chisel. And then, it kept happening. Each time, the same signs: a wood-handled axe left at the scene, a door carved open, and a family destroyed. At first, the newspapers called him the Cleaver. But as the killings spread, New Orleans gave him a new name: the Axeman. By 1918, the city was gripped by terror. The Axeman didn't care who you were, rich or poor, young or old, but he seemed to have a strange obsession with Italian immigrants, especially grocers. He would sneak into homes through unlocked doors, attack at night, and vanish before dawn. Every attack seemed ritualistic, deliberate, and eerily calm. Detectives were desperate. Patrols swept the streets, but the killer moved like smoke. Sometimes he'd disappear for months, only to strike again, as if reminding the city he was still there. Then came the letter. March 13, 1919. Every major newspaper in New Orleans received an envelope marked, "From Hell." Inside was a handwritten note, signed simply, "They have never caught me, and they never will. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I love jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the infernal regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is playing on the night I roam." The people of New Orleans read those words in horror. The killer was promising mercy, but only for those who played jazz. That night, the city transformed into one giant concert. Every club, every home, every street corner echoed with trumpets, drums, and the heartbeat of survival. Thousands danced through fear, hoping the music would keep the demon away. And it did. That night, no one died. After that, the killings slowed, then stopped altogether. Some believed the Axeman had finally been caught, others said he left the city, and the rest whispered that Marie Laveau herself had risen from the grave to drive him back into the underworld. Years passed. The jazz never stopped. But the fear stayed. Even today, people claim to hear phantom footsteps in the French Quarter, or the faint swing of an axe against empty air. Ghost hunters visiting the city swear that when you walk near 1140 Royal Street, where Madame LaLaurie once lived, You can sometimes hear two sounds at once, the rattling chains of her captives and the slow beat of distant jazz. It's as if the city's nightmares are bound together, the healer, the torturer, and the killer, three spirits tangled in one endless haunting. Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen who used her power to heal. Delphine LaLaurie, the aristocrat who used her power to destroy. And the Axeman, the faceless phantom who killed without reason. All three shape the legend of New Orleans, a city that dances on the edge of the supernatural. Some call it history. Others call it a curse. But if you ever walk alone through those streets after midnight, when the fog drifts low and the sound of a saxophone fades into silence, listen closely. You might just hear a faint knock, the shuffle of feet, or the whisper of a blade. Because in New Orleans, the dead never really stay dead.